When the university first announced the interstellar exchange program, most students thought it was a joke. Rumors had spread before, wild claims about alien visitors, strange ships hidden in orbit, secret government meetings. But people laughed them off. Nobody really believed an alien would step into a human dormitory, carrying a suitcase and looking for a roommate. But then Yarrick arrived. He appeared on a bright Monday morning, tall and shining, standing in the doorway of the dorm like some vision from a dream. His skin was silver, not metallic but soft, almost like water under sunlight. His eyes glowed faintly, two golden orbs that seemed to shift when he blinked. His voice carried a low vibration, almost like music trapped in words. The university staff looked nervous, the students stared, and I was the one holding the key to his new room. The paper in my hand said clearly, Human Host Student Daniel Carter. That was me, his roommate. At first, Daniel didn't know what to say. He had imagined maybe sharing a room with someone from across the country or another continent, but never from another world. He stood frozen, the key dangling from his fingers, his heart pounding in his chest. Yarrick tilted his head, studying him the way someone might study an unfamiliar painting. Are you Daniel? The alien asked, pronouncing the name carefully as if each syllable was precious. Daniel nodded, his mouth suddenly dry. Yeah, that's me. You must be Yarrick. The alien smiled, or at least Daniel thought it was a smile. His lips didn't move quite the same way as a human's, but the warmth in his eyes made it clear. He stepped inside, carrying only a slim silver case. That was everything he owned on Earth. Life with Yarrick started quietly. He was polite, always asking before touching anything, always watching before speaking. He slept very little, spending long nights by the window, gazing up at the stars as if searching for home. During the day, he followed Daniel with endless questions. Why do humans cover their bodies in layers of fabric? He asked one morning, pointing at Daniel's t-shirt and jeans. To stay warm, mostly. And, modesty, Daniel explained. Yarrick tilted his head. Modesty? Daniel hesitated, unsure how to explain human embarrassment to someone who didn't even seem to understand shame. Eventually, he just laughed, and Yarrick watched closely, fascinated by the sound. Why do you do that? Yarrick asked. Do what? Make that noise. Show your teeth. You mean laughing? Daniel said. It's when something feels funny, or when we're happy. Yarrick repeated the word softly. Happy. He let it rest in his mouth like a fragile object. Every question seemed small on the surface, yet behind it was a kind of hunger, a desire to understand what it meant to be human. He wasn't satisfied with knowing facts. He wanted to feel them. Weeks passed, and Daniel began to notice something unusual. Yarrick never truly joined in. He observed classes, he listened to music. He walked through crowded cafeterias, but he never acted like the others. He always stood at the edge, apart from everything, like a shadow at noon. One evening, as they sat in their small dorm room, Yarrick turned suddenly from the window. His glowing eyes fixed on Daniel, and his voice carried an unfamiliar tremor. Daniel, he said, tomorrow I want to live as you do. Entirely human. The words caught Daniel off guard. He set down his notebook and stared. What do you mean? I mean no more standing apart. No more watching from the edges. I wish to eat your food, walk your streets, breathe your air as you breathe it. I want to see why you endure your lives, why you find beauty in them. Tomorrow I will be human. Daniel felt a shiver run through him. It was the first time Yarrick had spoken with such intensity, almost desperation. For a moment he saw not an alien, not a visitor from the stars, but a soul searching for belonging. He nodded slowly. All right, Yarrick. Tomorrow you'll live like us. The alien's golden eyes softened, glowing faintly brighter in the dim room. For the first time since his arrival, he looked less like a stranger and more like a friend. And so, the day was set. The day an alien would try human life for the first time. The morning began differently. Daniel woke to find Yarrick already awake, standing by the window as usual. The silver-skinned alien watched the horizon with silent wonder, his eyes glowing faint gold in the pale light. But this time there was a new kind of energy in him, something eager, almost childlike. Today is the day, Yarrick said softly. His voice carried that strange vibration like music hidden in stone. I will live as you do. Daniel sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Right, step one of being human. Breakfast, Yarrick turned, curious. This breakfast, Why do you name the meal as an action? Is it something you must break? Daniel chuckled. Sort of. It means breaking the fast, eating after a long night without food. The alien blinked slowly as if tasting the words. Breaking the fast. He repeated it, his tone carrying reverence as though the phrase was sacred. Daniel guided Yarrick to the small shared kitchen. The room was ordinary, a humming refrigerator, a battered stove, a clutter of pans. But to Yarrick, every object was a mystery, every sound an orchestra. His golden eyes darted around, drinking in the details humans ignored. Daniel cracked eggs into a pan, whisking them with salt and butter. The hiss of heat filled the room, the air rich with the smell of cooking. Yarrick leaned forward, his silver fingers gripping the counter as if afraid to miss a single detail. The colors change, Yarrick whispered. From clear to white, from liquid to solid. It transforms. That's cooking, Daniel explained. We turn food into something new. Something better. When the toast popped from the old machine, Yarrick actually flinched, startled by the sudden sound. Daniel laughed, shaking his head. Relax, it's just toast. Yarrick tilted his head. Toast. He reached out carefully, touching the golden brown bread with wonder. It has scars of fire. But it smells alive. They sat down together at the small table. Daniel placed the plate in front of his alien roommate. Scrambled eggs, 2 slices of toast, and a bit of butter melting at the edges. A simple breakfast, nothing fancy. But to Yarrick it was more precious than jewels. He studied it in silence, his glowing eyes wide. For a long moment he did not move. Finally he lifted the fork, copying Daniel's motions. He brought a small bite of egg to his mouth and closed his lips around it. What happened next took Daniel by surprise. Yarrick's entire body shivered as though struck by lightning. His eyes flared bright, golden light spilling like a sunrise. A sound escaped his throat, half gasp, half laugh, trembling with awe. It changes as I chew, Yarrick whispered. His voice cracked with emotion. So warm, so soft. It becomes many things at once. It is not only sustenance. It is memory. It is comfort. It is... He stopped, pressing a hand to his chest as though steadying a heart that beat too fast. Daniel grinned. That's breakfast. Yarrick took another bite, then another, unable to stop. His glowing eyes softened, and for the first time, Daniel saw something that looked like joy across his silver face. Not the studied curiosity of an observer, but pure, unguarded delight. When Yarrick tasted the toast, he paused again. He bit carefully, crunching through the crisp surface. His eyes closed, and a sound like laughter rumbled from deep in his chest. It sings when I bite it, Yarrick said. It sings of fire, of sun, of something alive but changed. He looked at Daniel with wonder. You eat this every morning? Not always, Daniel admitted. Sometimes cereal. Sometimes nothing. But yeah, food's kind of a big deal for us, Yarrick shook his head slowly. You do not realize. This is not survival, this is art. Daniel leaned back, smiling faintly. He hadn't thought much about it before. Eggs and toast were ordinary, everyday, boring. But through Yarrick's glowing eyes, the simple meal became something magical. For the first time, Daniel realized how much beauty hid in human routine, how much wonder he himself had stopped noticing. When the plate was finally empty, Yarrick set down the fork carefully, as though laying aside a holy relic. He touched the edge of the plate with trembling fingers and whispered, I have tasted the sun. Daniel blinked. The sun? Yes, Yarrick said. It was warmth, brightness, energy, and peace all at once. In my world, food is gray orbs, fuel only. But here it is life itself. Today, Daniel, I have learned why you begin your days with this ritual. It is not to survive. It is to remember that living is worth it. For a moment, the small dorm kitchen felt larger, brighter, sacred. And in that silence, Daniel realized something important. This was only the beginning. Today, his alien roommate had eaten breakfast for the first time. Tomorrow, who knew what else he might discover about being human? And for the first time in a long while, Daniel felt proud to be one. The day after breakfast, Daniel kept his promise. He would take Yarrick outside into the world of humans, not just to observe from a distance, but to walk, to feel, to live. When Yarrick stepped out of the dormitory doors, the morning sunlight fell across his silver skin. It shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting gold and white. People on the campus stopped to stare. Some whispered, some pointed, some simply froze in silence. But Yarrick did not notice. His golden eyes were wide, staring not at people but at everything else. The sky, the trees, the ground under his feet. The air moves, Yarrick whispered, tilting his head back. The wind rustled through the branches, carrying with it the smell of grass and earth. It carries scents, sounds, touches. Each gust is different. I did not know air could be alive. Daniel smiled faintly. That's called wind. Humans barely notice it most of the time. Yarrick stretched out his arms, letting the breeze flow across him. His silver skin rippled faintly as if it absorbed the sensation. Then he whispered, "The sky does not press down. It welcomes. On my world, the sky is heavy. Here, it feels open, free." They began to walk. Daniel made sure not to rush, but Yarrick was already setting the pace. He walked with careful, deliberate steps, almost reverent. He paused to touch the rough bark of a tree, tracing the grooves with gentle fingers. He crouched to watch ants marching in lines across the sidewalk, his glowing eyes following every tiny movement. He even bent close to smell a flower, though the pollen made him sneeze, a sound so sudden and strange that he almost panicked. What was that? Yarrick exclaimed, clutching his chest. Daniel laughed. "Relax, that's a sneeze. Just your body's way of cleaning out your nose." Yarrick blinked, then gave a small nod. Even the body itself joins the world. Fascinating. As they moved deeper into town, the streets grew busier. Cars rolled past with low rumbles. People hurried by with coffee cups in their hands, and shop windows flashed with bright signs. Every sound, every motion pulled Yarrick's attention. He paused at a crosswalk, eyes wide at the glowing red hand that shifted to a green figure. "Your world speaks with light," he said. "Colors that guide life. Remarkable." Daniel couldn't help but chuckle. "You're making it sound a lot more poetic than it really is. It's just a traffic signal." But for Yarrick, nothing was just anything. Every detail mattered, every sound and color was a thread in the grand design of human life. At one point, they passed a small park. Children were playing on swings, their laughter rising and falling like birdsong. Yarrick froze. His eyes softened, glowing faintly brighter. "What is that sound?" he asked quietly. Daniel listened. "You mean the kids? They're laughing." "Laughing," Yarrick repeated, almost whispering. He stood very still, as if afraid the moment might vanish if he moved. "This sound, it is not like music. It is not planned, yet it is beautiful. It feels light." Daniel nodded. "That's joy. That's what happiness sounds like." For the first time, Yarrick tried to mimic it. A low rumble left his throat, uneven and strange. Daniel stared, then burst out laughing himself. Yarrick tilted his head, confused. "Did I do it wrong?" he asked. Daniel wiped a tear from his eye. No. It was perfect, just different." For a brief moment, they both laughed together, human and alien, sharing the same sound. By the time they reached the downtown diner, Yarrick was buzzing with excitement. He had touched trees, felt wind, listened to laughter, and crossed streets guided by glowing lights. To him, humanity was not noise and routine. It was music, alive in every corner. "This world," Yarrick whispered as they reached the door. "It is not still. It breathes. And today I breathe with it." Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's the whole point, Yarrick, living it. Not just watching it." With that, they stepped into the diner, unaware that the day's wonder was about to be tested by something much darker. By midday, the world outside had begun to feel like a maze of colors, sounds, and smells. Daniel guided Yarrick to a small diner downtown, a place where humans gathered to eat, talk, and sometimes argue. Yarrick had never seen such a place, nor imagined so many people close together, all moving at their own pace, all speaking different voices at once. "Why are there so many of them?" Yarrick asked softly, his golden eyes widening. "They're humans," Daniel said. "It's what we do. We eat together, share moments, even if we don't know each other." Yarrick looked around the crowded room. Each table was alive with conversation, plates clattering, laughter rising and falling. He hesitated at the entrance, his silver hands trembling slightly. I do not know if I can." "Too many, too exposed." "You can," Daniel reassured him. "Just follow me. I'll be right here." They chose a booth near the window, and Daniel slid in next to Yarrick. The alien's posture was tense, almost defensive, as if he expected the world to strike him at any moment. He watched the other patrons with curiosity, occasionally tilting his head as he tried to understand the gestures, the tones, the subtle glances humans shared without speaking. The waitress approached, and Daniel ordered 2 sandwiches and drinks. Yarrick studied the menu with fascination, his fingers hovering over the words. "All of this is meant to be eaten?" He asked. Yes, Daniel said. You choose what you like. When the food arrived, Yarrick hesitated. He picked up the sandwich delicately as though it were a fragile artifact. He looked at it for several long moments, then took a tiny bite. His eyes glowed brighter and a low sound escaped him, half gasp, half hum of pleasure. This is alive, he whispered. Each bite, it carries warmth, texture, taste, emotion. It is more than fuel. Daniel smiled. Yeah, that's the point. Then it happened. A man at a nearby table leaned back, pointed at Yarrick, and muttered loudly enough for everyone to hear. What a freak. The words hit Yarrick like a physical blow. He froze, the sandwich halfway to his mouth. His glowing eyes dimmed, his body trembling in a way Daniel had never seen before. Words were sacred in Yarrick's culture. They were never meant to harm, never meant to wound. Yet here a human had used them as weapons. Why? Do they hate what they do not know? Yarrick whispered, his voice breaking. Daniel felt a pang in his chest. He had expected curiosity, maybe fear, but not cruelty so raw and blunt. He wanted to shield Yarrick, to disappear into the booth and erase the insult. But he could not. He had to answer. Sometimes, being human means being cruel, Daniel said quietly. It's not fair and it's not right. But it happens. Yarrick lowered his head, the glow of his eyes fading. Then why? Why would you wish me to live like this? The question cut deeper than any insult. Daniel had no ready answer. He swallowed, forcing words past the lump in his throat. Because there is more than cruelty. There is kindness, laughter, food, music, friendship. You see it now, maybe you have even felt it. Humans can be harsh, yes, but the good moments, they are worth it. That is why we endure. Yarrick's gaze lifted slightly. He studied Daniel, searching for truth in his words. The alien's posture remained tense, but there was a flicker of understanding, a tiny spark of trust. The world is jagged, Yarrick said finally, voice low. It cuts, it wounds, it mocks. And yet some choose to remain. You endure because of hope. Because of meaning, Daniel nodded. Exactly. And you can too, Yarrick. You don't have to understand it all at once, but if you try, it's worth it. The rest of the meal was quiet. Yarrick ate slowly, cautiously, tasting each bite as if it were medicine, savoring warmth and texture, trying to anchor himself after the shock of human cruelty. Daniel watched him with pride. This was more than eating. This was courage. Yarrick had entered a world that was both beautiful and harsh, and he was choosing to stay. By the time they left the diner, Yarrick's glow had returned, softer, steadier. He took a deep breath of the outside air and whispered, The world is dangerous, but it is also alive. I will walk it. I will try again. Daniel realized something then. Today had been a lesson, not only for Yarrick, but for him as well. Humans could be cruel, yes, but they could also inspire hope, beauty, and courage. Yarrick had felt both sides in one day, and still he had chosen to continue. And that was more human than Daniel had ever realized. That night, the dormitory was quiet. The hum of the heating system was the only sound, soft and steady. But inside the small room, a storm of feelings raged. Yarrick sat by the window, knees drawn to his chest, staring at the stars as if they held answers he could not reach. His silver skin shimmered faintly, the soft gold of his eyes dimmer than usual. Daniel watched him from his bed, unsure how to break the silence. Yarrick had tried human life, walked the streets, tasted food, even heard laughter, and yet now, he seemed smaller, as if the weight of it all had pressed him down. Finally, Yarrick spoke, his voice trembling. I thought I could live as you do. I thought I could understand this world, but it is cruel, noisy, full of pain and mockery. Every moment I breathe here, I feel exposed, weak, flawed. Daniel swallowed hard. He had anticipated some difficulty, but this raw despair caught him off guard. Yarrick, it's true. Life can hurt. People can be cruel. That's part of being human. But it's not the whole story. Yarrick shook his head slowly. I observed the world today, Daniel. I listened, I tasted, I touched. I laughed with you, and yet I felt alone. Humans smile, yet the smile often hides knives. Words wound more than claws. The very air seems heavy with judgment. Daniel stepped closer, kneeling beside the window. Yarrick, look at me. I know it hurts. I know it seems too much. But think of the morning, the breakfast. You tasted warmth, comfort, life in something as small as eggs and toast. Do you remember how your eyes glowed when you first bit into it? Yarek's hands rested in his lap, still trembling. Yes, but that was only a moment. One fleeting moment in a river of cruelty. What is the point of tasting sunlight if the shadows are so dark? Daniel took a deep breath. He had to find the right words that could reach Yarek's heart, words that were more than explanation. They had to be truth. Because those moments make the shadows bearable. Humans endure pain because of hope, because of warmth, because of kindness that shines even when the world is cold. We endure because it matters. Every meal, every laugh, every touch, these things are proof that life is worth it. That's why we keep going. Yarek tilted his head, golden eyes flicking toward Daniel. So, you choose to live, even knowing this pain? Yes, Daniel said firmly. We endure because the good moments exist. They are rare, fragile, but they are real. And if you learn to notice them, to hold on to them, you will see. Humans are not only cruel. We are strong. We are brave. And even flawed, we can be beautiful. Yarek's gaze fell to the floor, and for a long moment he said nothing. His body trembled as if the very act of deciding to stay human-sized was a battle. Finally, his voice, soft and broken, spoke again. Then, if I wish to live as you do, I must endure. Both pain and light. Both mockery and laughter. Both cruelty and kindness. I must accept all of it. Daniel smiled, a mix of relief and pride warming him from the inside. Exactly. You don't have to understand it all at once. You just have to keep trying. The alien remained silent, but his golden eyes began to glow again, faintly at first, then stronger. There was a new depth to them. A quiet courage that hadn't been there before. Yarek leaned back against the window, letting the night air wash over him, breathing slowly. I see it now, he whispered. The pain, it is real. But so is the hope. The warmth. The life, perhaps. This is why humans continue. Daniel nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. In that small room, two very different beings shared something profound. An understanding of endurance, of courage, and of choosing life despite its hardships. And for the first time, Yarek allowed himself to relax, letting the glow of the stars mix with the glow in his eyes. He had faced his breaking point and chosen to rise above it, not because he had to, but because he understood that even pain could not erase the beauty of being alive. The room remained quiet, but it was a quiet filled with something alive. Trust, hope, and the fragile, luminous spark of understanding between two friends. One human, one alien, both learning what it truly meant to live. The next morning, the dorm room felt different. The sunlight spilled across the floor, warm and golden, but the air between Daniel and Yarek was heavy with unspoken thoughts. The events of the previous day, the laughter, the cruelty, the pain, still hung in the room like a fragile shadow. Yarek sat quietly by the window, his silver hands clasped together. His golden eyes glowed softly, steady now, but carrying the weight of a decision he had yet to make. Daniel watched him, wondering if his friend would retreat back into the safety of observation or finally step fully into human life. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Yarek reached for his communicator, the slender device from his homeworld that allowed instant contact with his species. His fingers hovered over it. The beings on the other side had expected a report, a judgment, perhaps even a condemnation, perhaps even a refusal to continue human life. Daniel held his breath. Finally, Yarek spoke, his voice low but steady. I have seen the human world, he said. I have tasted warmth, I have heard laughter, I have felt pain. I have been mocked and I have been welcomed. I have been afraid and I have been amazed. He paused, drawing a deep breath. My people ask me to report, to judge, to decide whether humans are worthy of observation or dismissal. I do not wish to lie. I have seen both cruelty and kindness. I have felt both weakness and strength. And I have decided. Daniel leaned closer, his heart pounding. I choose to remain. Yarek's voice was calm, resolute. Not because humans are perfect. They are not. Not because this life is easy, it is not. I choose to remain because even in their flaws, even in their cruelty, there is beauty. There is life. There is hope. I choose to remain because I have tasted what it is to be human, and it has changed me. Daniel felt his chest tighten, a mix of relief, pride, and wonder. This was more than words. This was a declaration of trust, of courage, of understanding. Yarek had seen the darkness and the light, and he had chosen the light. Not blindly, but knowingly. Yarrick lowered his communicator. His golden eyes met Daniel's, glowing brighter. I wish to learn fully, to experience everything humans endure, to understand the joy, the sorrow, the laughter, the pain, to breathe, to eat, to live, as you do. Daniel smiled, feeling tears prick the corners of his eyes. That's all anyone can ask for. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep trying, and the rest will follow. The alien nodded, a faint smile spreading across his silver face. Then today I begin anew. Today I walk fully in your world. I will taste the sun in my meals, I will listen to your laughter, I will endure the shadows, and I will seek the light. Daniel felt a warmth in his chest. He had never thought of it this way. But somehow watching Yarrick make this choice made him see human life differently too. Humans endured hardship, yes. Humans suffered. Humans made mistakes. But they chose to keep living, to keep hoping, to keep striving. And now Yarrick had chosen the same. For the first time, Daniel realized that being human was not just about survival. It was about courage, about accepting the world in its fullness, about choosing life even when it hurt. And Yarrick, who came from a distant world, had understood this faster than many humans ever would. Yarrick rose from the window, stretching his tall frame. The silver skin shimmered in the morning light, golden eyes steady and confident. Lead the way, Daniel, he said. I am ready to live, Daniel grinned. All right, Yarrick. Let's see what being human really feels like, step by step. And as they left the room, the dormitory quiet behind them, there was a sense of hope that neither had felt before. Yarrick had made his choice. He had embraced the human world with all its pain, all its beauty, and all its uncertainty. And in doing so, he had taught Daniel something powerful. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to walk forward, even when the shadows loom. Together they stepped into the morning light. And for Yarrick, every breath, every sound, every moment from that day forward would be the beginning of a new life. Human life, fully and bravely lived. Evening came slowly, painting the city in shades of orange and purple. The streets, once overwhelming, now seemed to welcome Yarrick. His silver skin reflected the fading sunlight, glowing softly, and his golden eyes held a serenity Daniel had never seen before. Today had been long, full of laughter, discovery, mistakes, and wonder, but Yarrick had faced it all, fully. Daniel walked beside him, carrying a small bag with snacks from the diner, the smell of bread and butter still clinging to it. You did well today, he said softly. You really did. Yarrick tilted his head. Did I, Daniel? Did I live as humans do? You did more than that, Daniel said. You chose to live, and that's the hardest part. They found a quiet park bench overlooking a small pond where ducks floated lazily on the water. Yarrick sat down carefully, his long frame folding in a way that was almost human, almost comfortable. He studied his reflection in the pond, silver skin and golden eyes mingling with the colors of the sunset. This reflection, he whispered, it is both me and this world. It is strange, and yet familiar. I feel whole. Daniel nodded. It's because you tried. You stepped into life fully. You didn't just observe. It's easy to watch the world, harder to live in it. And you did it. Yarrick's glowing eyes softened. I have never known such feelings. Eating warmth, feeling laughter, walking among others yet not hiding. Even when they judge, the pain. It was present, yes. But so was beauty, so was kindness. It is worth it. All of it. A child ran past chasing a small ball, laughing without restraint. Yarrick watched her, eyes wide, a small smile forming on his silver lips. That laughter, he murmured, it is not just sound. It is life itself, and I am part of it now. Daniel smiled, watching his friend find wonder in the simplest of things. And that's human life, he said. Sometimes messy, sometimes cruel, but it's alive. Every part of it. Yarrick turned to him, golden eyes glowing warmly. Daniel, you have guided me. You have shared your world. You did not shield me from pain, yet you helped me see light. I'm grateful. I wish to continue learning, continuing living, fully even when it hurts. Daniel reached out, placing a hand on Yarrick's. The alien's skin was warm, surprisingly so, and the gesture felt natural, human, and sacred all at once. You don't have to do it alone, Daniel said. We'll figure it out together. One day, one step at a time. Yarrick nodded, absorbing the weight of those words. Then today, I am human, not in body alone, but in choice, in courage, in hope. I will try again tomorrow and the next day and the day after. I will live as you do. Because it is worth living. The sky darkened, stars beginning to pierce the deep blue of night. Yarrick lifted his face to the heavens, the golden glow of his eyes merging with the starlight. The stars, he whispered, they are my home. And yet, I have found another home here, on Earth, among humans, among hope. Daniel watched him, heart full. He realized something profound. Yarrick had not just learned to be human. Yarrick had chosen humanity in the deepest sense. Not because it was easy, not because it was safe, but because it was worth the struggle.